Okay, and welcome. So this is the Work Legally and Ethically unit. You all understand the meaning of the number on the screen. You all understand that I am recording this lesson, although I doubt very much that your voices will carry over, but I'm recording it for the online students. This particular unit, Work Legally and Ethically, it's about the skills and knowledge that you're going to need to identify and work within the legal and ethical frameworks that apply to an individual job role. So it's for community service workers, it's also for health workers who play a proactive role in identifying and meeting their legal and ethical responsibilities. A couple of key words there for you. Proactive role on that second bottom line, and an earlier one where it says identifying and working within the legal and ethical. Part of how this unit works is that I'm going to be telling you a bit about individual laws, but there's actually an emphasis overall on knowing how the system works and how you can proactively go out and find what the law has to say and meeting those legal and ethical responsibilities. So it means you're not waiting for someone else to tell you, hey, you just broke your ethical responsibilities or the legal responsibilities. So I could be teaching you here's all the individual laws. The reason we don't do that is because a couple of years from now you'll be graduated, you'll be in industry, and the laws may have changed. So a lot of what our direction in this unit is about is helping you work out which websites to trust, where to find legal information, how to actually proactively find things out for yourself. It's not just about follow the rules, it's about proactively looking up the rules and working out what to do in certain circumstances. So the overall learning outcomes are that it's about having the skills related to identifying and responding to legal requirements, identifying and meeting ethical responsibilities, and contributing to workplace improvement. Now you'll notice keywords in each of those. There's actually a lot more words. So you get to see the summary, but I actually have another couple of hundred words to deal with for the actual definitions of this unit, but that's the summary, 20 words or so. The first one's about the legal requirements, the second is about the ethical, the third is about the workplace. Those three areas. So to take them one by one, we look at all of those together, but take them one by one. The legal ones, sorry, I'll start from the other end. The workplace improvements, the workplace stuff is about the policies in your specific organisation. So that's going to be different, and that's kind of tricky to teach because I can show you a sample policy manual, and I've got one for you on the eLearn page, as to how that specific organisation works. But some of you are going to work in one place, some are going to work in another, and it will vary from one place to the next. Or you'll work one place Mondays and one place Wednesday, Thursday. That's variable from one service to the next. The ethical requirements are a little different. This is what all of those different services and workers have worked together, and what they agree on is the right and proper thing to do. So that's industry-wide. That's beyond your organisation. I'll make sure you've got a copy of the Industry Code of Ethics, and a little bit bigger than that again is the legal requirements. This is stuff that's beyond our industry. This is actually stuff that covers everybody in the state, territory or country. So you would know this. There's laws. We all obey them whether we agree to them or not. There's one actually level higher than this. Have a think about, has anybody got any suggestions? Yeah, worldwide, well done. And what international, I can tell you. Internationally, there's some human rights that we've said as a human being born on this planet, you have a certain level of rights too. That wasn't, you'll notice, one of the learning outcomes specific to this unit, but it is an underpinning theme throughout this unit and most of the studies you'll be doing over the next year or two, depending on how long it takes you to finish the course. It's there in all of our different units. And it's where we look broader than just the country. We look at international, they actually call it universal. human rights as well. So there's actually 4 levels of rules that we have to deal with. I'll be exploring each of those throughout this course. But let's begin with the law. Let's begin with the absolute basics. If you don't know the stuff on this slide, then we need to have a chat afterwards. I reckon you guys already know that there's things that the law says that you have to do. And there's things the law says you can't do. You understand that? And we could draw a line around the outside of that, and we could call that the legal domain. That's the area that the law cares about. And there's a whole lot of stuff outside that that is the things the law doesn't make an effort one way or the other. So legally, I have to have my car registered if I'm going to drive it. The law says I can't speed on the way home. The law doesn't care what colour the car is. The one thing I just want to emphasise here is this is talking about the legal domain. That's what the law cares about or what the law doesn't care about. So sometimes people get this mixed up. It's not saying these are the legal things and outside of that circle is the illegal things. It's saying these are the things that the law has a voice in. You got me? Okay. Or making sense to everybody? Yes, I see lots of heads nodding. Excellent. They're legal requirements. That'll get us started. There's also, you could say the same about the industry-wide code of ethics. It has lots of things that it cares about, lots of things that it doesn't. One of the frustrations I have in life in general, but in watching people in industry, is that they seem to think the law is all that matters. They seem to think that it knocks the ethics out of the way. People constantly... This is why I don't go on Facebook, because people say, oh, he did nothing wrong. Not that long ago, we had a politician who was sleeping with one of his workers. And you remember this story? Okay. I was thinking of an Australian politician, but decide for yourself. The point is, lots of people said, oh, but there was no law against that. That was consenting adults. He has done nothing wrong. And I'm with them right up to the point where they say he has done nothing wrong. Because when we're talking about the things that bind us, the things that make a difference to how we behave, just because it's not illegal doesn't matter. In fact, the law and the code of ethics overlap substantially. Generally speaking, in our industry, we can say the bulk of the work is actually in this, what's now coloured, kind of purplish colour, the overlap between those two spaces. They work together, they support each other. I know there's legal bits that are purely about the law, purely some legal requirements around record keeping, taxation. There's 1,000 other. Who here owns a dog or a cat? Okay, am I right? Because I don't own pets that I can't flush down the toilet when I go on holidays, because I'm not a good pet owner. But you guys, okay, so tell me, you own a dog? Okay, there's laws around how you keep your dog. Okay, so microchipping, some fees, some things you have to do. Excellent. The code of ethics would have nothing whatsoever to say about that, but the law would. It would be in this zone here over on the left. In the same way, there's still this zone here that's not the overlap, where the code of ethics says we have a duty towards our industry. You've got a duty towards yourself to look after yourself. You've got a duty towards your co-workers, towards your client, towards your employers. There's duties there that aren't covered by the law, but are nevertheless duties that we have. But most of the work, most of the heavy lifting is in the shared zone there. We had privacy and confidentiality laws before the Privacy Act of 1998. That was our ethical behaviour, the way that we would treat clients. Before about the same era, when they brought in mandatory reporting, we had an ethical stance that said we're going to keep kids safe. Same with duty of care, same with discrimination, same with the variety of others. We'll look at the Code of Ethics in a future week. But just to show you the model, most of the heavy lifting happens in this shared space here, but there are bits either side. We could actually put a match to the law and most of those things would still be in place. Would you like to see that again? Because I did put a lot of work into that. Fine. We could put a match to the law. The legal stuff, like there would still be a bit there that we'd lose out on because the bit that wasn't covered over in that side. But all that stuff about child protection, confidentiality, duty of care and all those other areas, we wouldn't really alter our behaviour a whole lot because our Code of Ethics states that they should remain. And we could say the same about the Code of Ethics prior to it being formalised. There's extra bits that have been added, but the law states that anyway. Just don't let me hear you say it's not illegal, so therefore that's all that matters. There is, of course, a third circle, and we could say the same thing. The third circle, does anybody remember? Yeah, it's in massive great letters at the top of the screen. It shouldn't be. It's the workplace, your individual workplace that you're at. It certainly reinforces and clarifies, it supports the law, it supports the Code of Ethics, but it also adds specific organisational bits to do with that organisation's culture. Some organisations, for example, I used to work for a group of Marist brothers in near my Mount Druitt area. Wonderful guys, despite everything you might hear about Catholic brothers, because there's been a few issues. They were great. They had some really great, they worked for nothing. They went into the poorest part of town, they did whatever they could. The Marists, if you don't know, are a Catholic order of, in this case, guys who have said, we're going to work, we'll share our pay, we'll work for pretty much nothing, we'll work for the community. And they moved into this area when it wasn't fashionable amongst homelessness services. Sorry, they set up refuges. So to this day, I think they've still got a refuge called the Siding, because all that they could get in those days was the old railway siding, and they said, yep, that'll do. We'll take that. We're going to house homeless kids. And there's a few others with interesting historical names like that. But so they were a teaching order, and so they, when it wasn't fashionable, they were still saying, no, we think education is the key to changing your future. So none of the other agencies were focusing on keeping kids in school and keeping their education going. Part of the organisational culture of these guys was, no, we also want to house you and meet all your needs, but also we're going to spend time tutoring so that you don't miss out on your school, because we think that's a key part of how we work. Switch roles to another refuge, they'd have a different emphasis. They would be far more likely to be suggesting that a marriage should end, or that a termination, an abortion might be on the cards. The Marists were a little bit more reluctant in that area. Different organisations have their different stuff specifically going on, or they interpret the law slightly differently. So there's still a purple zone down the bottom there, specifically about different organisations. Okay, that's the model we're going to be using throughout this entire course, is think about those three areas, remember that they overlap, remember that the bulk is in the middle there, but we do need to take into account each of those facets when we're deciding what the correct behaviour is in any given situation. The general principles, they're all still there. There's legal stuff, there's extra ethical stuff, there's specific organisational stuff, but essentially this is what we're after.